Okay, right on the next topic. Next topic is irrigation system in India. Irrigation system in India. Under that, dimensions to be covered under irrigation system. Number one, present status. Second, challenges in irrigation. Third, initiatives. Initiatives and strategies. Initiatives and strategies. Okay, so can just have a look at the previous year mains questions on irrigation. Mains 2024. You had this question on what are the challenges faced by Indian irrigation system. Mains 2025, a question on what are the reasons for the groundwater crisis. So after covering all these dimensions, we'll come back and try to structure the answers for these two PYQs. And after completing this, the next topic we'll take up is micro irrigation. Okay. So let's start with the irrigation system of India. So with respect to irrigation system, like I said, the first dimension that we'll cover is the present status. So please write. Presently 52%, presently 52% of net sown area is under irrigation. Okay, so in the bracket you can write 52% of net sown area is under irrigation. In the bracket 73 million hectare. 73 million hectares. Okay, and next, if you see, with respect to sources of irrigation, how do you irrigate the agricultural fields in India? One source, you have wells and tube wells. So well is a open well. Tube well is basically groundwater where you dig a bore well. This is an open well and this is tube well. Second one is the canal irrigation. Third one is a tank irrigation. Tank irrigation basically means, you must have seen in certain agricultural fields they build a tank. From the tank they directly cultivate the agricultural crops, right? This is the tank irrigation. Apart from that, you have other sources of irrigation, which is basically more of rainwater harvesting. Other sources including rainwater harvesting. Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, whose share do you think is highest? Yes, wells and tube wells right now they account for 64%. Canal irrigation account for 24%. Tank irrigation accounts for just 2%. And other sources account for 10%. So these are the different sources of irrigation. So that way, if you see, I must have told you, in agriculture, we can use either surface water or we can use the groundwater. The share of surface water is around 40% and groundwater is around 60%. And here, with respect to groundwater, what you should also know is India extracts 25% of the global groundwater, and hence it is the largest extractor of the groundwater. Almost 25% of the global groundwater is extracted in India. Next point is, if you see the irrigation efficiency in India, irrigation efficiency is around 38%, but the global average of irrigation efficiency is 56%. When I say irrigation efficiency, it's like saying if you supply 100 liters of water to our agricultural field, out of that 100 liters, only 38 liters is consumed by the crops. Where is the remaining water going? Waste. It is getting absorbed into the soil mostly. Whereas in other countries, the share of water consumed by the crops is more than half, which is 56%. So these are your present status. What you should do is, depending upon the nature of question, your introduction can be along these lines. Let's say if the question is explicitly about groundwater, where should be your introduction focus on? India extracts 25% of the global groundwater and it is the largest extractor. Groundwater accounts for 60% of the total irrigation. If the question is in general about irrigation in India, in general irrigation means you can write 52% of our net zone area is under irrigation. However, irrigation efficiency in India is 38% as compared to a global average of 56%. So I've given you a broad points depending upon the question, right? Your introduction must be along these lines. Another point that you can write here is with respect to water crisis. What is that name of the committee, name of the report published by Niti Aayog? Composite Water Management Index report. Niti Aayog's Composite Water Management Index report, which says that right now India is facing the worst water crisis in its history. And because of this water crisis, it has said that by 2030, that is the next 5 years, by 2030, the demand for water will be far higher than the supply. It says more than 3 lakh deaths. People may die because of lack of access to clean and potable drinking water. More than 3 lakh deaths. And it says 21 cities across India will reach ground zero. When I say ground zero means they will no longer have groundwater. Examples of these cities include cities like Chennai, Bangalore and Delhi. They will no longer have groundwater. The rate at which we are extracting groundwater. And you must understand, whenever there's a water crisis, ultimately that water crisis is also translate into economic loss. And that economic loss could be around 6% of our GDP. How will water crisis lead to economic loss? I was going to say that 3 shopping malls in South Delhi may soon get closed. Yes. If you have been reading newspaper, you must have come across this recent article just yesterday. The 3 shopping malls in South Delhi, right? They may soon get closed because they do not have access to water. Not just that, if there is a water crisis, what will happen to generation of hydropower? Hydropower generation will reduce. Water is also critical input for industries. Industrial output will also reduce. So cumulatively, it can lead to a loss of 6% of India's GDP. So we are staring at probably the worst water crisis. I hope you understood, everyone. Okay. Apart from that, if you see the theme of World Water Day 2022, the theme of World Water Day 2022 was making the invisible visible. This is with respect to ground water. Making the invisible visible. See, groundwater is not visible to the naked eye. It is invisible. And the problem is, because it's not visible, we don't even know how much we are extracting the groundwater. And we are going to stare at probably the over exploitation of groundwater. So the groundwater which is invisible should be made visible. इसका मतलब क्या है? Should be made visible means we should increase awareness among the people with respect to over exploitation of groundwater and focus on sustainable management of groundwater. Visible का मतलब ये नहीं कि ज्यादा एक्सट्रैक्ट करो. Understand that. ठीक है? Is this part clear? Present status? Okay. Now, I told you it's all pick and choose. कहाँ है cross? अच्छा. Okay. So here, it's all pick and choose. If you are writing an answer about groundwater, the best way to conclude an answer on groundwater is by highlighting the theme. If you are writing an answer on overall water irrigation in India, the best way to conclude or introduction could be with Niti Aayog's Composite Water Management Index. Okay, so let's move to the next one. Next one is with respect to what are the challenges. What are the challenges in terms of irrigation? Okay, right. First challenge. सबसे बड़ा challenge क्या लगता है आपको? What percentage of area is under irrigation? 52%. So which means how much is under rain fed? 48. So right, 48% of net sown area is rain fed agriculture, where the yield is 3 times lower. Who must have said this thing? Yield is 3 times lower. Dalwai panel, right in the bracket, Dalwai panel. That is how you should need to do value addition. ठीक है? Second, is Indian agriculture is over using the water. Why it is overusing the water? Number one, yes. Okay. Let's start with the first one, cropping pattern. Cropping pattern wise, I hope are you able to remember the data which I gave you with respect to cropping pattern? 38% of the area is under rice and wheat. Cropping pattern one is rice and wheat accounts for 38% of the area. Okay. Apart from this, the second is use of flood irrigation method. When I say flood irrigation method means we keep the land inundated with water. Okay, but that is needed for rice, na? Rice is through flood irrigation method only. But for which crop are we using flood irrigation where it is actually not needed? Which crop? Yes, sugarcane. Very good. So use of flood irrigation method, example, sugarcane. Which one? We'll come to that. We'll connect all the dots, don't worry. Okay, so sugarcane is, we are using more of flood irrigation. Apart from why do you use water is because there's a very interesting concept where it is said India is a net exporter of virtual water. Look at the word. India is a net exporter of virtual water. When I say, if you look at India, right? India is a importer of goods, but India is a exporter of water. But China is exporter of goods and it is importer of water. But the question is, how is India exporting water in the first place? Huh? Through export of? Yes. Actually, what if you look at our export basket of our agriculture commodities, our export basket is dominated by basmati rice. And you must understand basmati rice consumes a lot of water. So our export basket is dominated by basmati rice. Example, you can write export basket is dominated by, but that way, why is China importer of water? China never exports rice. What China does, China exports fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables, can I say, it requires less water, right? It never exports rice. Rice it uses more for its domestic consumption. Samaya? Okay, so this is reasons why we are overusing the water. Which one? Net importer. I not use the word, just imported, net. If you look at export and import, that way if you see net wise it is importer. यहाँ तक clear है सबको? Okay, let's move to the next point. Next point is with respect to rain-fed areas. Rain-fed areas. The problems in the rain-fed areas here. If you see the problems in the rain-fed areas, if you see India का जो average rainfall है, average annual rainfall, it is around 117 centimeter, average annual rainfall. And that way, India receives one of the highest rainfall in the world. One of the highest rainfall in the world is received by India. Ideally, we should not be facing the water crisis then, right? Because the amount of rainfall. But the reason why we are facing water crisis is this rainfall is concentrated during which months? Yes, monsoon months. Almost 70% of rainfall is concentrated during monsoon. So ideally, what we should do is we should have focused on rain water harvesting, so that the water that we get during rainfall, that water we can use it through the rest of the year. So we have not given due emphasis on rainwater harvesting. Next is with respect to irrigated areas. With respect to irrigated areas, okay, here the most important point in the irrigated areas is there is huge gap. There is huge gap between irrigation potential created and irrigation potential utilized. Write the full form. Gap between irrigation potential created and irrigation potential utilized. What is this gap? Let's try to understand. Okay, let's say this is a river. In exam, don't make the diagram. This is just for your understanding. This is a river. From this river, what we do, we take out the canals like this, and the canals will carry water to the agricultural fields. This we call it as command area development. In geography, you must have heard of watershed development or command area development. This is what is command area development. We call it as command area because if this is a river, this entire area is under the command of the river. That is why we call it as command area development. Once we do the command area development, let's say irrigation potential created is we can irrigate, for example, 100 acres. 100 acres can be irrigated. Irrigation potential utilized, it might be so that we are right now cultivating only or irrigating only 60 acres. That way, how much is the gap here? 40 acres. Why that gap is there? क्यों होता है gap? One, tilting, okay, good. Then seepage is there, good. Yes, good. So there are some reasons why there's a huge gap. Please write. Number one, non-maintenance of canals. Non-maintenance of canals leading to siltation, and seepages. Siltation and seepages. Okay, what is siltation is canal is carrying water all the time. along with the water, it is also carrying sediments at the bottom of the canal. Over a period of time, there will be heavy deposition of sediments at the bottom of the canal, because of which ability of the canal to carry more water will reduce. Ideally, क्या करना चाहिए? We must regularly maintain the canals. Apart from that, I have also written the word seepages. Seepages means the canals ideally should be lined so that the water does not go underground. But the canals are not lined with the concrete or something like that, because of which huge amount of water will seep into the ground. Seepages. Samay aaya? That's the first reason. Second. Right on. Second point. Second. Low water tariffs. Low water tariffs. So when I say low water tariff, ideally what should happen is every farmer who is using this particular infrastructure, they must pay for the water, just like how you pay for water bill when you purchase water from MCD. Same way here, farmers should pay for water tariff. But because of vote bank politics, most of the state governments do not collect any water tariff, which means the farmers are mostly getting water free. And you must understand, economics says that when you get something free, you tend to use it very indiscriminately. You don't save it. That's another problem. Okay. Third one, lack of participatory irrigation management. Lack of participatory irrigation management in the form of Varabandi system. Let's understand what is this Varabandi system. When you look at this command area development, let's say you have a farmer A who is at the start of the canal, and you have farmer Z who is at the end of this particular canal. Because everyone has access to water, and because there's no effective regulation of water, what happens is this farmer A will use more of water. Obviously, it is cheap, so he'll use more of water. Even this farmer B will also use more of water. So by the time the water reaches this farmer Z, the canal is actually very empty. There's no water left in the canal. So because of which, more utilization of the water in the upper part, less amount of water will be available in the lower part of the canal. Now, to solve this problem, there is something called as Varabandi system. Varabandi system means everyone should have access to irrigation water through rotation. Through rotation means ideally क्या होना चाहिए? This farmer A should get water, let's say, on every Monday. This farmer should get water on every Tuesday. This farmer C must get water on every Wednesday. By that process, can I say we are going for equitable distribution of water? But mostly it is not done. So that is why, because of lack of adoption of Varabandi system, there is a huge gap. Next. In exam, you don't have so much of scope to explain it. You just use this keyword, that is Varabandi system, lack of participatory irrigation management. Rotation system आप डाल सकते हो. Next, under this only, shift from less water intensive crops to more water intensive crops upon access to irrigation. So it's like saying a farmer was happily cultivating oil seeds, pulses, which require less water. Suddenly, the farmer is now having access to canal water. What will the farmer do? He will shift from less water intensive crops to more water intensive crops like rice and sugarcane. So this command area development is supposed to irrigate 100 acres of, let's say, pulses or oil seeds. But now we are irrigating rice and sugarcane. So that is why the gap will widen. Okay. So these are the points that you should write under the gap between IPU and IPC. Next is limited adoption of micro irrigation. Limited adoption of micro irrigation. Under that, put a hyphen and write against the potential of 70 million hectares, against the potential of 70 million hectares, comma, only 14 million hectares is under micro irrigation. Only 14 million hectares is under micro irrigation. So if you see the potential of how much area can be brought under micro irrigation, it is as high as 70 million hectare. How much is your net sown area? Net sown area, I told you, it is around 141, which means half of our net sown area can be under micro irrigation. But present status of micro irrigation is just 14 million hectare. If you convert this as a percentage of net sown area, kitna aega? 10%. That's it. As far as the reasons are concerned, do not worry. Ye will cover when I take up the micro irrigation. Okay. Next. Over exploitation of groundwater. Over exploitation of the groundwater. Why are we using more groundwater? Anyone? One, right? I'll start with his point. Very good point. He says that farmers have access to subsidized electricity. Good. Second, someone is saying is easily accessible. I hope you agree with me on this. Canal water might not be easily accessible everywhere, but what is the most easily accessible? Groundwater. So it is easily accessible. I can also say that we also introduced large number of pump sets during a green revolution. Introduction of pump sets during green revolution. ये point I was expecting. The most important point, जब आप लिख रहे हो ground water का, the most important point which should be there at the top, we'll cover that point. That is Indian Easement Act. Indian Easement, EASEMENT, Indian Easement Act. Okay, let's understand what is this Indian Easement Act. This act was formulated during the British era. It's a British law. This act basically says that if you own a parcel of land, a plot of land, you not only own that particular plot or agricultural field, you also own the water beneath it. Which means if you see groundwater in India, is it a public property or a private property? It is a private property. It is not a public property. So the problem here in India is if I could say, if you see water can be surface water or the groundwater. Surface water is always a public property. You can never say that lake belongs to you or river belongs to you. It is always a public property. But groundwater is always a private property. When groundwater is a private property, the problem is there's no effective regulation of extraction of groundwater. कोई regulate नहीं करता है. Entire groundwater belongs to you. So if you want to extract groundwater, it's like you need only one-time investment. What is that one-time investment? You just have to dig a borewell. That's it. It's a one-time expenditure. There's no recurring expenditure also because you are getting free electricity. So one time you invest money, dig a borewell, and later the water belongs to you. It's a private property. Plus you are getting subsidized electricity. You can extract as much amount of groundwater you want to. Is this part clear? This point should be mentioned in your answer. Indian Easement Act. So right, Indian Easement Act, put a hyphen and write. Landowners have complete access to groundwater, since it is treated as a private property. Since it is treated as a private property. Since it is treated as a private property. Full stop. Thus, there is no effective regulation. Thus, there is no effective regulation of groundwater extraction. There is no effective regulation of the groundwater extraction. Is this part clear, everyone? Okay. So totally how many points you have mentioned? Okay, 6, and you can break this into 6, 1, 2, 3. Total is almost 9 to 10 points. Huh? So that is how you should be able to write a answer on the challenges in the irrigation system. Let's move to the next one about the initiatives taken by the government. Initiatives taken by the government. Okay, with respect to initiatives, one is we have a institutional support. That institutional support is in the form of a separate ministry. What is that ministry? Ministry of Jal Shakti. So we have a institutional support in the form of Ministry of Jal Shakti. Then there is also a policy support. Policy support. Policy support, National Water Policy. National Water Policy. Government has formulated a separate policy for effective use of water. Apart from that, you have number of central government schemes formulated by the central government. Yes, you tell me which is the most important scheme. Per drop, more crop is actually component of some bigger scheme. What is that scheme? Huh? Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana. So the scheme name is Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana. This scheme has basically two components. हर खेत को पानी, हर खेत को पानी, ensuring that every field, agricultural field gets water, हर खेत को पानी. And the second one is per drop more crop. As the name suggests, per drop more crop is for adoption of micro irrigation. Apart from that, you have Jal Shakti Abhiyan. Jal Shakti Abhiyan. What it is for? No, that is Jal Jeevan Mission. Jal Shakti Abhiyan is for sustainable management of groundwater. Sustainable management of groundwater. Right? Sustainable management of the groundwater. Then we have Atal Bhujal Yojana. Atal Bhujal Yojana. Bhujal means groundwater. ठीक है? Then we have National Water Mission. National Water Mission. Under this National Water Mission, we have started a campaign called as Sahi Fasal Campaign. Sahi Fasal Campaign. Any idea what this could mean? Yeah, it's basically to bring awareness among the farmers to go for crop diversification. Give up, let's say, cultivation of rice, wheat, sugarcane, and shift to pulses and oil seeds. Sahi Fasal Campaign. Next is National Aquifer Mapping Program. National Aquifer Mapping Program. You must be knowing what is aquifer. Aquifer is the place where the groundwater is stored. So under this program, what we are doing is we are undertaking mapping of the aquifers and then helping them in recharge of the groundwater level. Then next is Model Bill on groundwater regulation. Model Bill on the groundwater regulation. Okay, let's see what it is. ये model bill क्या होता है? State can adopt it. Okay. If you look at water, right? Water is a state subject. Because water is a state subject, the central government cannot make a law on the state subject, that is water. So what the central government has done, central government has prepared a model bill and it has circulated the model bill among all the states so that the states can adopt this model bill for groundwater regulation. Now you tell me, based upon what we have covered with respect to groundwater, what should be there in this model bill? क्या होना चाहिए? We are not repealed the Indian Easement Act. वो तो नहीं हुआ अभी तक. Provisions क्या होना चाहिए with respect to? No. If you see here, I told you with respect to groundwater, सबसे बड़ा problem क्या है कि groundwater is treated as a private property. Because it is treated as a private property, you don't have to take a approval, permission of the government to dig a borewell now. So now, under this model bill, which has been circulated to all the states, the central government has said to the states, please set up a separate authority for regulating the groundwater extraction. If anyone wants to dig a borewell, then they have to take a prior approval of the state government. Some states have already implemented it. If you know this thing, you know in certain states, if you want to dig a borewell, you are required to take a approval of the state government. Anyone knows which state you belong to and there that provision is there? Karnataka it is there. Then a lot of states have this thing, but the problem is this approval is applicable only in the urban areas. This has not been extended to the agriculture. It means in your house, let's say if you want to dig a borewell, you are required to take a permission of the state. But if you are a farmer and if you want to dig a borewell, you are not required to take an approval of the states. The reason is very simple. No government wants to go against the interests of the farmers. Last time you saw what happened when the government passed the farm laws. All the farmers started protesting against the farm laws, and government ultimately had to take back the farm laws. So government has made it mandatory to take approval for digging borewells for urban consumption, but not so for agriculture purpose. समझ में आया? Okay, so you can write model bill on groundwater regulation, put a hyphen and write mandatory approval of the government. Mandatory approval of the government. Mandatory approval of the government for digging borewell and regulating the groundwater extraction and regulating groundwater extraction. Is this part clear? Okay. Apart from that, let's also look into some unique case studies from various states with respect to irrigation system. Case studies. The case studies number 1, which you can use it in your validation. Case study number 1 is Kerala. Kerala government has started coming out with what is called as water budget. Put a hyphen and write first state to release water budget. Okay, what is water budget, by the way? You know normal union budget, right? In normal union budget, the finance minister will ascertain how much tax we will get. Based upon that, how much money we would be spending in the next year. So they will try to ensure that the expenditure of the government is same as the receipts of the government. If you are doing that with money for the central budget, Kerala government is doing the same thing with respect to what? Water. So at the start of every year, the Kerala government estimates how much water is available in Kerala and how much water we are using in Kerala, thus ensuring that we are not overusing the water. So that is how it has started with water budget. It's a very powerful case study that you can write in your exam. Okay? Second is Punjab. In Punjab, they have a scheme it's called as Pani Bachao Paise Kamao. Pani Bachao Paise Kamao. I don't have to explain it. That's what. कैसे लगता है पैसे कैसे कमाएंगे इससे? Everyone in Punjab, they'll get certain free units of electricity. For example, everyone might get 200 units of free electricity, which they don't have to pay money for. Out of this 200 units, let's say they utilize just 100 units of electricity. Can I say by saving 100 units of electricity, they are able to save groundwater, pani bachao. They have saved some water. For every unit of electricity saved, they'll get some money. For example, they might say for every 1 unit of electricity that you save, you will get rupees 4. So if I'm a farmer, I've got 200 units of free electricity, but I've used only 100 units. I've saved 100 units. For every 1 unit, I'll get 4. 100 into 4, I'll get 400 rupees every month. Clear with that? Okay. Second, under Punjab only, भाव अंतर भरपाई योजना, भावांतर भरपाई योजना, भावांतर भरपाई योजना, put a hyphen and write. Compensation to the farmers. Compensation to the farmers if they face loss. Compensation to the farmers if they face loss on selling fruits and vegetables. On selling fruits and vegetables. Okay, look at the word bhav antar. Bhav antar bharpai yojana. It means, let's say, for example, let's say for fruits and vegetables like tomato, the government has said you will get for sure rupees 20 per kg. This is an assured price. I am a farmer. I have sold tomato at rupees 15 per kg. It means I have incurred a loss of rupees 5. Whatever loss which I have incurred, that entire loss is compensated by the Punjab government. Bhav means price. Antar means difference. Bhav antar, bharpai. Bharpai means compensation. समझ में आया? Why it is good is because this will nudge the farmers in Punjab to shift from rice and wheat to more of horticulture products, fruits and vegetables. ठीक है? Next. UP government. In UP, they have started declaring MSP for maize. MSP for maize separately, which will in turn encourage farmers, especially in western UP, to shift from sugarcane to more of maize. And you must understand, maize is a less water intensive crop. Not just that, in UP, there is a village, Jakhni village. Jakhni village, put a hyphen and write. Cultivation of basmati rice. Cultivation of basmati rice through rainwater harvesting. Cultivation of basmati rice through rainwater harvesting. So, this is a very powerful case study. Where is it? Achha. Can you see here? This is a case study which says in drought hit Bundelkhand region, village returns to age-old water conservation techniques. And this village was earlier a drought prone village. It used to face repeatedly droughts. From a drought prone village, now it is growing basmati rice. And you must understand, growing basmati rice is not that easy because it's very water intensive. So that is one case study that you can write. Okay. Next is MP. MP government has a separate scheme called as Kapil Dhara. Kapil Dhara scheme. Kapil Dhara scheme. You can put a hyphen and write convergence between MG Narega. Convergence between MG Narega and rainwater harvesting. Convergence between MG Narega and rainwater harvesting. Basically, under MG Narega, certain amount of money is now being spent for construction and restoration of village ponds. If you go to the rural areas these days, you might find when the rural area starts, right, the village starts, either on the left hand side or on the right hand side, a pond is constructed. That pond is constructed to store the rainwater harvesting. That construction or restoration of village pond is taking place under MG Narega. So Madhya Pradesh has a separate scheme for having that kind of convergence between MG Narega and rainwater harvesting. Okay, next is Andhra Pradesh has a separate program called as Neeru Chettu. Neeru Chettu program for rainwater harvesting and groundwater. Okay, so these are some of the case studies that you can write. Let's move to the last part. Last part is about the strategies, right? Strategies. Okay, under the strategies, the first point, demand side strategies. Demand side strategies. Demand side strategies. In the bracket, you can write reducing the demand for water. Reducing the demand for water. Yes. How do you reduce the demand for water in agriculture? Number one, we have to promote crop diversification, right? Promote crop diversification. Can you give some examples here? नहीं, case studies, some examples. इतने सारे एग्जाम्पल दिखे हैं. यूपी का कौन सा स्कीम है? भावांतर भरपाई योजना. गुड. Promote crop diversification. Example, UP's Bhavantar Bharpai Yojana. Punjab's. And then UP's MSP for maize. The new pulses scheme also you can write. Second, adoption of micro irrigation. Adoption of micro irrigation. Under demand side only. Reducing demand for water. Number one, crop diversification. Second one is adoption of micro irrigation. Third one, separation of feeder lines. Separation of feeder lines. Okay. Anyone knows what is this feeder line? नहीं, वो feeder line, it's not with respect to canal, it's with respect to electricity. Electricity feeder line. So we'll have one separate feeder line for villages. This feeder line for villages will carry electricity 24/7. There will be another feeder line which will carry electricity to the agricultural fields, farms. and this feeder line will carry electricity to the field only for 4 to 5 hours in a single day. Why it is beneficial is if you give subsidized electricity to farmer 24 into 7, he will use that subsidized electricity for groundwater. So instead of giving electricity 24 into 7, give him electricity only for 4 to 5 hours in a single day. So you must have seen these days, if you go to agriculture fields, right? The farmer will know for sure that electricity will come in this hour only during this particular time period. That is what is separation of feeder line. Clear with that? So these are the demand side strategies. Next one. Huh? It is already a component. It's already there. It's already implemented in a lot of states. Gujarat is the best example, and we have a scheme, Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gram Jyoti Yojana. Under that scheme, it's a main component. Okay, next, you can write supply side strategies. How do you increase the supply of water? क्या करना चाहिए उसके लिए? Adopt rainwater harvesting. Adopt rainwater harvesting. Second, recharge of the groundwater. Recharge of the groundwater through percolation ponds. Recharge of the groundwater through percolation ponds. Use this keyword percolation pond. So what is percolation pond means? You identify a aquifer. Once a large aquifer is identified, adjacent to that aquifer, you dig out a pond so that the water gets collected in that pond, and from that pond, the water will seep into the aquifer. So this pond is not for utilization of water. This pond is for what? Percolation of water into aquifer. So that is why we call it as percolation ponds. Clear? Third, और क्या कर सकते हैं सप्लाई को बढ़ाने के लिए? Yes, interlinking of rivers. Good. Interlinking of rivers. So these are the supply side. Next, legal changes. Which act? Yeah, amendment of Indian Easement Act. Legal changes? No, we are done with the supply side. Now we are looking at the legal side. Legal amendment of the Indian Easement Act. Fourth is institutional. Right? Merger of Central Water Commission. Merger of Central Water Commission and Central Groundwater Board. Merger of Central Water Commission and Central Groundwater Board to form National Water Commission. National Water Commission. In the bracket, any idea which committee has suggested this? Mihir Shah, MIHIR, Mihir Shah Committee. Mihir Shah Committee. So right now, with respect to institutional structure, right? For surface water, we have Central Water Commission. For groundwater, we have Central Groundwater Board, which means there is a fragmented approach to deal with the water. We need more a unified approach. For that, the Mihir Shah Committee has said merger of these two into one single National Water Commission. Clear yahan tak? So these are the strategies. So this is the entire topic of the irrigation system. And that is rainwater harvesting. Rainwater harvesting pe nahi aaya. No. It has never been asked so far. नहीं. ट्रेडिशनल वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग स्ट्रक्चर्स पे अभी तक क्वेश्चन नहीं आया पेपर 3 में. See, it has not been asked. पेपर 3 में नहीं आया, दैट्स व्हाट आई एम सेइंग। ये कौन सा पेपर है जो यूपीएससी आपको सेपरेटली दे रहा है? जो आपने पढ़ा है वही दे रहे हैं आपको। पेपर 3 में नहीं आया, देयर इज नो क्वेश्चन ऑन ट्रेडिशनल रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग। इज दैट क्लियर? ओके, चलो। Now we have covered all these things about irrigation, right? Now let's move to the next topic, right? Groundwater. 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 Okay. With respect to groundwater, let's have the framework ready. Number one, present status. Present status. You know the present status of groundwater? क्या है present status? India is the world's largest extractor of groundwater, accounting for 25% of the global groundwater extraction. Groundwater accounts for 60% of the total irrigation in India. ये present status है, right? So write down. Groundwater accounts for India accounts for 25% of the global groundwater extraction. India accounts for 25% of the global groundwater extraction, and hence it is the largest extractor. Full stop. 60% of the water, 60% of the water used in agriculture is groundwater. That's a present status. Second, reasons for groundwater extraction. Take your time. Let's say there is a standalone question for 15 marks जो पूछ रहे हैं reasons for groundwater extraction. 15 marks का. What all points can you write? Go back to your notes. I have given you some points which are specific to groundwater, right? How many specific points we covered? 4. But आपके पास तो 4 ही points हैं. How will you write a 50 marker answer? Did you get my question? There's a standalone question on reasons for groundwater extraction. I have given you only 4 points. How will you write the other points then? Look at that point. Overuse वाला point आएगा वहां पे. उसमें कितने points है overuse of water में? Sorry, 3 points. Can I say lower adoption of micro irrigation भी वहां पे आ सकता है? Did you understand this point? That's it. There you have mentioned one point, rain-fed areas, lack of focus on rainwater harvesting. For groundwater क्या होना चाहिए वो point? Lack of focus on groundwater recharge. That's it. So what you have to do is the framework which I have covered, from that framework only you can generate points to write the reasons for groundwater extraction. समझ में आया सबको? So write reasons for groundwater extraction. Already discussed. एग्जाम में मत ये लिखना ये. Reasons for groundwater extraction already discussed. Next, initiatives. अभी बताओ initiatives. We have covered all the initiatives. Can I say those initiatives we can link it to groundwater also? Getting that point? Can you also add some state specific initiatives also? Which state can you use? Andhra Pradesh, Neeru Chettu, very good. Right? So already discussed. Strategies. Demand side, supply side, legal side and institutional side. हो गया वहीं पे? So what I'm trying to make you understand is, if you cover this topic of irrigation system, the same points can be modified to write an answer about groundwater. Way forward, क्या होना चाहिए यहाँ पे way forward? Theme of what? World Water Day. What is the theme called as making the invisible visible. Good. Way forward. Theme of World Water Day. Theme of World Water Day. Making the invisible visible. That's it. समझ में आया सबको? Everyone? Okay. Please look at this particular question. I want the answer structure. That's it. Write down the question and the answer structure. What happened? You're very happy? You're happy because it's 7 p.m.? Don't be happy. So ask him not to be happy. Kanishka, the class will go on for another half an hour to 45 minutes. Write the question and then the answer structure and show it to me if you're ready. Also think of the value addition points in terms of B, double C, D, E, F. Value addition. What will you write? Present status mein. Write that statement. Write the statement. When you write introduction, tell me that one or two statement, what will you write? The way I show you the suggested answer, na, ऐसे दिखाना है. ये you are starting with extractor of groundwater, right? It's not about just. हाँ ठीक है, good. हाँ good. This good. हाँ yeah. हाँ good. And B, double C, D, E, F. Think of it. Committees. Which committee will you use? Which committee should you use? There is one Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog का कौन सा report है? Composite Water Management Index. And there's another committee I told you, Mihir Shah committee. That can be used as a strategy, right? And case studies कौन सा हो सकता है? You can write about the Kerala ka. Some 2 to 3 case studies you can write, right? Diagram, can you make any diagram here? कोई pie chart वगैरह बन सकता है क्या? Yes, good. sources of irrigation. Good. The sources of irrigation का pie chart बन सकता है, where I told you, right, what is the share of two wells, what is the share of canals, tank irrigation. That can be like a pie chart. Facts तो आप use करोगे everywhere. What are some of the facts? One most important fact which you should not miss out is about irrigation efficiency in India. How much is that? 38%. Global average is 56%. What is the net irrigated area? 52%. All these facts. But you should also use facts in the challenges also. Like one fact is about rice and wheat. Rice and wheat accounts for 38% of the area. That is another fact that you can use. So you can just have a look at the broad answer structure. ठीक है, everyone? Sorry? What will you write there? वो तो आप कर ही रहे हो ना ग्राउंड वाटर में, यू राइटिंग दैट पॉइंट, वो तो वहां पे आ रहा है ना. सो आई हैव डिवाइडेड दैट इनटू ओवर यूज ऑफ वाटर, इरिगेटेड एरिया, रेनफेड एरिया एंड ग्राउंड वाटर. सो वहां पे तो आ ही रहा है. ओके, लेट्स हैव अ लुक एट दिस PYQ. Yeah, write down the question and the answer structure quickly. How many of your answers are pending with me? I have already given feedback to some of the answers. People have sent it to me either on WhatsApp or mail, but how many of your answers are pending with me? No one? All of you got a feedback? Your answer is pending? आपने भेजा है मुझे? ये क्या बात हुआ? आपने भेजा नहीं तो पेंडिंग कैसे हो सकता है? No, I'm asking how many of your answers is pending from my side, मेरी तरफ से. ठीक है? Go and have a coffee. Yes. You are ready with the search answer structure? हाँ. Intro क्या होना चाहिए? That statement. The present status of groundwater. वो हो गया. Good. And body of the answer. Part 1 reasons. Part 2 initiatives. So this can be your introduction. Presently, India is the world's largest extractor of groundwater, accounting for 25% of the global groundwater extraction. According to Niti Aayog's Composite Water Management Index report, 21 Indian cities are expected to reach ground zero by 2030. Then, in the body of the answer, part 1, factors responsible for depleting groundwater in India. Steps taken. Before you come to steps taken, you can simply write one dimension as to what will happen because of this groundwater crisis. Like a hub and spoke diagram, a small hub and spoke diagram, कि groundwater crisis can have effect on food security, lack of access to drinking water, it can cause economic loss. I told you how much is the economic loss? 6%, approximately 6% can be the loss, right? How many people might die? 3 lakh people. So, why data? And then the final conclusion, World Water Day. Clear? Hai? Fine. Let's move to the next topic. The next topic is micro irrigation. Huh? Because the question does not explicitly ask you to write strategies, strategies can become part of your conclusion. Right? Micro irrigation. For micro irrigation, the first thing is the present status of micro irrigation. Second one is benefits of micro irrigation. Second one is third one is initiatives for micro irrigation, and its role in addressing water crisis, and last one is the way forward. So these are the dimensions. What is the present status? I hope you know. Yes, write that present status against the potential, against the potential, against the potential of 70 million hectares, against the potential of 70 million hectares, comma, only 14 million hectares, only 14 million hectares in the bracket 10% is under micro irrigation. Full stop. According to Dalwai panel, adoption of micro irrigation can reduce water consumption by 40%, comma, enhance productivity by 45%, enhance productivity by 45%, and increase the income by 50%. Underline those facts. Water consumption by 40%, productivity by 45%, and income by 50%. Don't get into maths कि ये कैसे work out होता है. Dalwai panel has already worked out the maths. He says water consumption will reduce by 40%. And you must also understand micro irrigation is more targeted. Because it is more targeted, we can expect the yield of the crops to increase. And as the yield increases, can I also say that the income of the farmers will also increase? 50% increase in the income. What do you think are the benefits of micro irrigation? 3 points, 3 to 4 points. Anyone? Number one is obviously it will help us improve the irrigation efficiency. How much is it right now? 38%. It can increase to almost 90%. A quantum jump in the irrigation efficiency. Good. I'll write all of this thing. Let's do the brainstorming first. Second, वो तो हो गया irrigation efficiency. We can increase the yield. Productivity will increase. We can increase the income. 3 हो गए. उसके अलावा हाँ It will help us improve the soil health, or it will reduce the water logging of the soil, and it will help us reduce the soil salinity. Good, very good point. Anything else? Reduce the how? Because we are using more groundwater. Okay, good. Then, have you heard of something called as fertigation? Fertigation means irrigation plus fertilizer. Fertigation means you have certain fertilizers which are water soluble, which get dissolved in the water. Those fertilizers which are water soluble, you can dissolve in the water, and that fertilizers can be supplied through micro irrigation directly to the crops. It will help us promote more balanced utilization of fertilizers. Clear? Okay, so some of the points which you can think of writing here. Number one is enhance irrigation efficiency. Enhance irrigation efficiency from 38% to around 90%. Second, it will enhance the yield of the crops as water is supplied directly to the root zone of the crops. It will help us reduce water logging and salinity of the soils. It will promote fertigation, and it can help us increase the income of the farmers. So these are some of the points that you can think of writing. The biggest initiative we already covered, it is Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, under which we have a scheme called as per drop more crop. Under this, we are giving subsidy to the farmers. Subsidy is given to farmers for adoption of micro irrigation. Second, we have a separate fund called as micro irrigation fund. Micro irrigation fund, it is managed by NABARD to provide financial support to the states for micro irrigation purpose. ठीक है everyone? Okay. With respect to its role in addressing water crisis, I'm trying to divide this into two parts. One part is how it addresses water crisis in agriculture, and second part is why micro irrigation has limited role in addressing water crisis. So I'm dividing this into two components. One, why it addresses water crisis, and second, why is its role limited. All of you just check. In the last part, we covered reasons or the problems in irrigation system. कितने points थे? Almost like 10 points. Tell me to what extent those problems can be solved through micro irrigation and how. You have to have a direct linkage between the two. कैसे establish कर सकते हो linkage? हाँ, तो वहां पे कैसे कर सकते हैं? Go on. हाँ, go on. What is that? So one point, like what she says, we can replace flood irrigation method with micro irrigation. By doing so, we can conserve more water. This is what I'm looking for. और कोई example है ऐसा? Points? Any other point? Can you do something? Look at the first point. Overuse of water है ना? तो वहां पे कुछ कर सकते हैं? Micro irrigation can solve some of that problem. You have to have very straightforward points. You have to say this is how use of micro irrigation will solve the water crisis. Establish direct linkage. I'll give you an example. वहां पे overuse of water, you said that we are focusing more on water intensive crops which use flood irrigation method. Can I say that there are certain crops for which we can use micro irrigation instead of flood irrigation? Which crop we can use micro irrigation instead of flood irrigation? शुगर केन. एग्जैक्टली. ये ऐसे लिंक करना है आपको कि वाटर क्राइसिस इसलिए हो रहा है एंड इसको माइक्रो इरिगेशन ऐसे सॉल्व कर सकता है. गेटिंग इट? सो लाइक वन पॉइंट विच आई कैन राइट हियर इज हाउ इट एड्रेसेस वाटर क्राइसिस इज we can adoption of micro irrigation. Though I'm writing short form as MI, do not write short form in the mains, write full. Adoption of micro irrigation for water intensive crops such as sugarcane can reduce water consumption by a whopping 70%. This is how you should be able to write. Second, it can replace flood irrigation method and enhance the irrigation efficiency. Third, adoption of micro irrigation in the irrigated areas can reduce gap between irrigation potential created and irrigation potential utilized. So you have to link the challenges to the micro irrigation. Integration of micro irrigation with rain water harvesting can reduce water crisis in the rain fed areas. Integration of micro irrigation with rainwater harvesting can reduce water crisis in the rain fed areas. समझ आया everyone? Now, why do you think micro irrigation may not be able to solve the water crisis? क्या reasons हैं? It means you have to write some challenges of micro irrigation. What are the challenges? One is obviously high cost, right? High initial cost. High initial cost. I'll come to that as well. Okay, now let's see here. I'm a farmer. I can go for micro irrigation. I will compare the cost benefit ratio of micro irrigation with other forms of irrigation. Let's say I'm a farmer in a irrigated area where I have access to canal water. Can I say that the canal water I'm getting free of cost because it is highly subsidized? I don't have to pay anything. If I go for micro irrigation, I have to make a one-time investment of buying the micro irrigation equipment. So between canal water and micro irrigation, which one is more preferable to me? Any day, the canal water is more preferable. Let's say I am a farmer who does not has access to canal water. I will compare groundwater with the micro irrigation. For groundwater, the thing here is I need only one-time investment of digging a borewell. I'm getting subsidized electricity. Whereas for micro irrigation, I first have to buy a micro irrigation equipment. And you must understand it is not a one-time investment because the micro irrigation equipment undergoes wear and tear. And after 4 to 5 years, I need to replace them once again. So it is more costly as compared to other forms of irrigation. So the second biggest problem is subsidized electricity and low water tariffs make micro irrigation less attractive for the farmers. Third is farmers generally have limited access to credit. They have limited access to credit. Or you can also say wear and tear of micro irrigation equipment leads to recurring cost. Next. Limited scope to adopt micro irrigation for certain crops. Example of which is paddy. You must understand it is very difficult to use micro irrigation for rice, paddy cultivation, limited scope. Higher concentrated, okay, instead of it, say regional disparity. Regional disparity as it is more concentrated in western and southern India as compared to, let's say, eastern or northeastern part of India. So generally farmers there are more prosperous, more richer, so they can afford to buy the micro irrigation equipment. So there the penetration is much higher. So these are some of the points that you can say that the micro irrigation is less attractive. समझ आया? Okay. Now you need to take a stand. You tell me, do you think micro irrigation can solve the water crisis of India? To a certain extent, obviously. Can micro irrigation alone solve the water crisis? Obviously not. Micro irrigation has to be supplemented, complemented with other strategies. वो कौन सा strategies होना चाहिए? Remember I discussed demand side, supply side, institutional side, right? Legal side. So, right, way forward. Micro irrigation has to be supplemented with demand side strategies, comma, supply side strategies, comma, legal changes, and institutional support. In the bracket as discussed before. You already discussed here, right? The same thing should be written here as well. Fine. Now let me take you back to the PYQ. Okay. Please read this question, mains 2021. Tell me what exactly is the demand of the question. Mains 2021, how and to what extent would micro irrigation help in solving India's water crisis? I want the demand of the question. What is the question asking you? Understand the question is not just about how micro irrigation will solve water crisis. It also says to what extent micro irrigation will solve water crisis. So this question should actually be broken down into two parts. Part one, how micro irrigation helps in solving water crisis. Part two, to what extent would micro irrigation solve in water crisis. इसका इंट्रोडक्शन क्या होना चाहिए? The present status of micro irrigation. Once you write the present status of micro irrigation, in the body the answer part 1, how micro irrigation solves water crisis. Part 2, to what extent micro irrigation solves water crisis. Challenges, and whenever you write challenges I keep telling you क्या लिखना है उसके बाद. Initiatives. What initiatives? Two initiatives. Per drop, more crop, and the second one is micro irrigation fund. And finally, you need to take a stand whether micro irrigation can solve the water crisis. I told you micro irrigation alone cannot solve water crisis. It has to be supplemented with other strategies. That's it. आसान है? Now let's say in next year mains, whatever it is, you get a question explicitly on challenges of micro irrigation. Can you write those 6 to 7 points that we covered? Directly challenges. Value addition कैसे कर सकते हो आप? Benefits. If the question is on benefits, you can write in benefits and then passing reference you can make to challenges. That's it. So what I have done is I have helped you prepare a one-pager notes on micro irrigation so that if any question is asked on micro irrigation, you should be able to write an answer to that. ठीक है? Everyone is clear? Okay. Next, you can write agriculture subsidy regime. Agriculture subsidy regime. Okay. With respect to agricultural subsidy regime will start with the present status of agriculture subsidies. Second, we will discuss the types of agricultural subsidies types. Third, we will cover why do we need agriculture subsidy? What are the challenges in agriculture subsidy? And what has to be done to address these challenges? Let's start with the present status. Right? The government provides agriculture subsidies. The government provides agriculture subsidies accounting for 2% of GDP and 21% of farmers' income. 21% of the farmers' income. So, when you look at the total amount spent on agriculture subsidies alone, it is 2% of our GDP. And I told you how much is our GDP approximately? 324. उसका आप देखो 2% कितना हो सकता है? Somewhere around 6 lakh crore is the money which is spent on, that is the money spent on agriculture subsidies. But when government provides for subsidies, it is benefiting farmer in terms of income. So if farmer is earning 100 rupees, out of that 100 rupees, it's like 21 rupees is earning because of subsidies alone. Okay, that is the present status. Let's look at the types of subsidies, right? Types of subsidies. Agriculture subsidies can be categorized into direct and indirect subsidies. Can be categorized into direct and indirect subsidies. Full stop. Direct subsidies are those subsidies wherein the government provides subsidies in such a manner that the farmers are the direct beneficiaries. The farmers are the direct beneficiaries. On the other hand, in case of indirect subsidies, farmers are indirect beneficiaries. Okay, let's understand this thing. Here, concentrate. When we say types of subsidies, we can have one type which is direct, and the second type is indirect. If I can show you in terms of diagram, it's like you have a government. Government is giving subsidy directly to a farmer. In case of indirect, you have government. Government is giving subsidy to some entity. It is not giving to the farmer. And this entity as such is passing on this benefit of subsidy to the farmer. Can you give me an example of this indirect? Huh? Fertilizer subsidy. In case of fertilizer subsidy, government is not giving subsidy directly to the farmer. Government is giving subsidy to the fertilizer companies, and fertilizer companies will sell fertilizer at a lesser cost to the farmers. डायरेक्ट सब्सिडी एग्जाम्पल कौन सा हो सकता है? पीएम किसान, पीएम किसान डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट्स ट्रांसफर, राइट? और हाँ, राइतु बंधु, और we can say, have you heard of yeah, we can talk about KCC, Kisan Credit Card, where we are providing for interstate subvention. So we'll cover all these examples of direct and indirect subsidies. Number one, you have PM Kisan. Second, can I also say MSP is a kind of direct subsidy? Because we are purchasing agriculture commodities from the farmers if their price fall below the MSP. Third, I hope some of you may have heard about PM Kusum. What it is for? Installation of solar pump sets. Installation of solar pump sets. PM Kusum. Then Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana. What kind of subsidy are we giving here under this? Micro irrigation. I told you per drop more crop, where we are giving subsidies to the farmers for adoption of micro irrigation. Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana. Then Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bhima Yojana. It is for the crop insurance. Fasal Bima Yojana, crop insurance. We'll cover about this later. Okay. Then we have Kisan Credit Card, under which there is interstate subvention. Interstate subvention. Then we have Agriculture Infrastructure Fund. Agri Infrastructure Fund. Put a hyphen right. Cheaper loans to farmers. Cheaper loans to farmers for construction of post-harvest infrastructure. Cheaper loans to the farmers for construction of post-harvest infrastructure, such as godowns. Such as godowns. Then we also have farm loan waivers. Farm loan waiver means loan maaf karna, right? So farmer has taken loan, he has not repaid the loan. Government will say, don't worry, I will repay the loans on your behalf. Farm loan waiver. So all of this are the examples of the direct subsidies. Indirect subsidies, one you have already identified. It is fertilizer subsidy. It also includes subsidy on seeds. Subsidy on seeds. It also include इलेक्ट्रिसिटी सब्सिडी, बिकॉज सब्सिडी किसको दिया जाता है? डिस्कॉम्स को, ना कि फार्मर्स को. We give subsidy to the seed companies, so they will be able to manufacture seed at a lesser price. Like we'll give them subsidy for research and development of seeds. So once they get the money from the government for research and development, that money they'll use it to develop new variety of seeds and sell the seeds to farmers at a lesser price. Okay. Then we also provide for transport subsidy also. Transport subsidy. FRP is like MSP only, no? हाँ. यहाँ तक clear है? Okay. So transport subsidy is also provided. It is like a indirect subsidy. Okay. What do you think is a need for subsidy? क्यों देना चाहिए subsidy farmers को? Based upon what we have covered. यहाँ पे सारे points देखो. Most important point number 1, he says, by providing subsidy, we can reduce the input cost. Which input we can reduce, Socho? Okay, fertilizers we can reduce. Good. One is we can reduce the seeds. We can also reduce electricity cost. We can reduce the input cost. Second, can I say it will enhance the productivity of agricultural field? Which subsidy do you think can enhance productivity, more output? Best example is, yes, example is fertilizers. ठीक है? Third, we can ensure that the farmers are getting higher prices. Yes, MSP. 1, 2, 3 points. ये कहाँ से आया मुझे 3 points? Dalwai panel. Exactly. Reducing input costs, enhancing productivity, and ensuring more price. Then, some points is that you can say promote long-term investment in agriculture. Which of these is long-term investment? Yes, good. Promote long-term investment, that is Agriculture Infrastructure Fund and PM Kusum. It's a long-term investment also, no? It will also help us reduce the farmers' vulnerability to climate change. Example, Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bhima Yojana and Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sichai Yojana. हाँ, okay. But usually क्या होता है ना, when things are quite simple, UPSC doesn't ask that. ये बहुत ही simple है, because you can easily generate points from those subsidies. So if UPSC would ask you a question, it will focus more upon what? Challenges. 1 minute, try to think of all the challenges of agriculture subsidies. Problems. Anything, it can be anything. Problems with agriculture subsidy regime. Take your time. Let me see how many points will you be able to generate. If you have 4 to 5 points, let me know. क्या 5 points हो गए? Okay. आपके जो 4-5 पॉइंट्स है ना, उसमें से एक बेस्ट पॉइंट, सबसे बेस्ट पॉइंट, सारे बेस्ट ही होंगे पर सबसे बेस्ट. फिजिकल बर्डन इज हाई. कितना है ये? हाउ मच हाई इट इज? 2% of the GDP. That is good, very good. Your best point. We are spending more on subsidies such that we are compromising on the GCF. Very good. he says it's a conflict with WTO because we are giving more than 10%. Hmm. Huh, what is that? That is only one, na? Ki we are giving more than 10%. Is there anything else also? We'll come to that point. Huh? Hmm. Then, okay, good. Huh? 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 Imbalance in fertilizer consumption. Good. Huh, good. Hmm. हाँ गुड कैसे होता है एक्सप्लेन करो सबके लिए he has a very good point he says it lead to inflation explain हाँ हाँ go on good go on okay he's not able to explain it but he says that MSP can lead to inflation कोई explain कर सकता है how MSP leads to inflation हाँ हम्म या ही हैज अ वेरी गुड पॉइंट ही सेज कि एमएसपी अगर ज्यादा गवर्नमेंट प्रोक्योर करता है अंडर एमएसपी राइस एंड व्हीट तो मार्केट में क्या हो जाता है आर्टिफिशियल स्केर्सिटी क्रिएट हो जाता है देयर विल बी लेस ऑफ राइस एंड व्हीट in the market if there's less of rice and wheat in the market what will happen to the prices of rice and wheat it will increase good very good hmm. And हाँ very good so यहाँ पे there are so many points to write but what you should do I'm now going to give you a framework. And please understand, if you keep this framework ready, you can use the same framework to write an answer related to any question related to subsidies. Like when I take up agriculture marketing, I will be covering the topic of MSP there. So there also I will be discussing the problems and challenges with MSP in the same framework which I'll be keeping. Now, for example, if I could tell you the challenges, the framework is number one is it has high fiscal burden. High fiscal burden, example we discussed, it is almost 2% of our GDP. Burden is very high. And you could actually give some examples also. यहाँ पे, for example, if you see food and fertilizer subsidy, food and fertilizer subsidy accounts for the highest share of subsidies in India. Among all the subsidies, the two highest are food and fertilizer. Any idea how much is the food subsidy bill every year? कितना है? नहीं बढ़ गया है. It is almost like 2.1 के आसपास. The food subsidy is around 2.1. Fertilizer subsidy is around 1.9. If you add these two, how much does it come out to be? Almost 4 lakh crores. The data changes, but it's in the same range. Food is more than fertilizer. They are around 2 lakh crore each, which is almost 4 lakh crores. So that is the first point. Second point, you should write like this, a broad heading and write exclusionary. Under exclusionary, you can generate some points. For example, just have a look at all the subsidies. कौन सा सब्सिडी आपको exclusionary लगता है? Starting from that. PM Kisan. How much money are we giving to farmers? 6,000 rupees per year. To which farmers are we giving this money? Huh? No. Now all the farmers are getting. But to get that particular subsidy, you have to have a land. It is given only to the land owning farmers. It means it is excluding the tenant farmers. Tenant farmers are those farmers who might not own the land, but they lease the land for cultivation. So it is exclusionary in terms of tenant farmers. Not just tenant farmers, it is exclusionary in terms of sharecroppers. Sharecroppers क्या होते हैं? They cultivate the crops on someone's agriculture field. Whatever they cultivate, some percentage of crops they give to the owner. Sharecropper. So, exclusionary, one example that you can write, why it is exclusionary, is PM Kisan excludes tenants and sharecroppers. Second, MSP. Data याद है? What percentage of farmers are getting benefit of MSP? 6%. Who has said so? Shanta Kumar Committee. Good. Only 6% of farmers benefit from MSP. Write the name of the committee as well. Any other subsidy you think is exclusionary? फार्म लोन वेवर्स किसको एक्सक्लूड कर रहा है? फार्म लोन वेवर. When I says farm loan waiver, what happens is government says if you're informal credit, so government will say if you have taken loan from a bank and if you're not repaid the loan to the bank, government says do not worry, I will repay your loan. But what if I have not taken loan from a bank but I've taken loan from money lender? Will government repay my loan to money lender? Obviously not. So farm loan waiver will obviously exclude farmers who avail non-institutional loans. So this is one framework, exclusionary. Third, is distortionary. Distortionary का मतलब ये है, it is having an effect on the other sectors. Distortionary. Even though we are giving subsidies in agriculture, it is distortionary because it is affecting other sectors. For example, farm loan waivers. Let's see here with respect to farm loan waivers. Okay. Please pay attention with respect to farm loan waiver. Let's say there is a farmer X and farmer Y. Both have taken loans. And this farmer X, let's say, repays the loans on time. Farmer Y defaults on loan. He does not pay the loan. Government will announce a farm loan waiver. Government will say if you are defaulted on loan, I will pay your loan. Between X and Y, when the government announces farm loan waiver, who is actually getting benefit of this farm loan? Y is getting. X, who has repaid loan on time, is he getting any kind of benefit? Obviously, he will not get that benefit. Imagine if I am this X farmer, मैं क्या सोचूंगा नेक्स्ट टाइम? क्यों पे करना है लोन? इनसे उससे अच्छा डिफॉल्ट करना है ताकि गवर्नमेंट विल repay the loans on my behalf. So when government goes for farm loan waiver repeatedly, it affects the credit culture in India. And because it affects the credit culture, what happens to NPAs of the banks? Increases. समझ में आया? Okay. It has become more of political tool. Like in a specific state last time, I remember a political party was campaigning elections without taking the name of the state, without taking the name of political party. This political party was openly saying to the farmers in that state, please don't repay the loans, but put vote in the name of my party, elect me to the power, I will repay your loans later. This is an open corruption only, na? It's like instead of giving them money, it's like you're giving them farm loan waiver. समझ आया? Okay. So this is affecting the credit culture. Farm loan waivers affect credit culture and hence lead to increase in the NPAs. Then I also told you MSP is also distortionary because MSP creates artificial scarcity of food grains and hence leads to inflation. Another distortionary is with respect to electricity subsidy. With respect to electricity subsidy, the problem here is it has led to huge losses to discoms in India. Discoms have accumulated huge losses. And when discoms have so much of losses, right? The problem is, number one, they will be unable to pay the dues to the power generating companies. If they do not pay the money to power generating companies on time, can we say that it will affect the electricity generation? Normally what happens is the state governments will say to Discom, you sell electricity at zero rate to the farmers. How much is your loss? I will compensate that loss. It will say to Discoms. But mostly the state governments do not pay for that loss on time. When they don't get money on time, the Discoms who are purchasing electricity from thermal power companies, they will not be able to pay the money to power companies, and this will affect the electricity generation. समझ आया? Same logic, when Discoms have accumulated huge losses, they will be unable to repay loans, which will lead to increase in the NPAs. So these are some of the examples of, we can say, distortionary. Fourth one is it has led to environmentally unsustainable practices. Environmentally unsustainable practices. देखो सारे सब्सिडीज कौन सा है environmentally unsustainable? हाँ, number one you can write overuse of urea, leading to imbalance in fertilizer consumption. Second, over cultivation of water intensive crops. Over cultivation of water intensive crops such as rice and wheat due to MSP. Electricity subsidy has led to over exploitation of the groundwater. electricity subsidy has led to over exploitation of the groundwater. ठीक है? Okay. Then does not solve the structural problems. Does not solve the structural problems of agriculture. Does not solve the structural problems of agriculture, such as fragmented land holdings, comma, lower area under irrigation, poor storage infrastructure, etc. Is this part clear? Okay. Huh? That will cover separately because it's an explicit question which is asked. We'll come to that. Okay. Then write strategies. You know what's the strategy? क्या करना चाहिए? Rationalization. So right, presently, the government spends more money on subsidies. Presently, the government spends more money on subsidies as compared to gross capital formation. Full stop. Hence, the government must rationalize the subsidies and divert the savings towards GCF. Look at the question. Look at the question which was asked in mains 2013. This question. What are the different types of subsidies given to farmers at the national and state level? Critically analyze the subsidy regime with reference to distortions created by it. आसान है. What is the introduction? The introduction is very simple. Directly present status of agriculture subsidies. In the body of the answer, part 1, you should talk about the different types of subsidies. Direct subsidies and indirect subsidies. Part 1. Part 2. Look at the word. यहाँ पे क्या लिखा है? Critically analyze. Critically analyze means should you focus only on challenges? You should focus on positives also and negatives also. Positives में क्या लिखोगे? Why do we need subsidies? Why is the government providing subsidy? Some 4 to 5 points we covered. Those 4 to 5 points you have to write. Second part, what are the challenges of subsidies? How many points you have written there? Challenges totally. Forget the broad points. वो तो 5 है. उसमें सब points भी होंगे ना. हाँ. So those 10 to 11 points should be there. And finally, the conclusion could be the strategies जो हमने discuss किया है. Right? हाँ. Benefits and then challenges. समझ आया? Okay. You can give some example of state level subsidies. I'm not distinguish the two, but let's say you have PM Kisan at the central level. Some states like Telangana has a separate scheme like Raitu Bandhu, Raitu Bharosa, right? So that is example. Same way, states are providing electricity subsidy. State government is only providing electricity subsidy, water subsidy. There's one topic which I want you guys to complete on your own. It will be there in your test. I will ensure that it is there in your test. I think that's a much better word. So this is the topic, participatory irrigation management. मैंने आपको बताया है, there was a topic which we covered कि there has to be a warabandi system, right? So the same topic I mentioned here. Please read एक बार, participatory irrigation management. What is the meaning here? What is the present status? And what is the water user associations? You must have heard about RWAs in Delhi, Resident Welfare Associations. क्या करते हैं Resident Welfare Association? Obviously, apart from conducting this extracurricular activities on Diwalis and other things, क्या करते हैं? Maintenance. So everyone will contribute some amount of money to RWA, and using that money, they use that money for maintenance of public park, street lighting, maintaining cleanliness. So just like how you have Resident Welfare Association, you have Water User Association or Pani Panchayats. You have heard of PRIs, Panchayati Raj institutions. Same like that, you have Pani Panchayats for use of for managing command area development. So you can just see all of that things we have covered. I hope you're able to remember that. Challenges, need for participatory irrigation management. ठीक है? So complete this on your own so that in the next class, I can start off with, okay, how many of you know about issues raised by WTO on agreement on agriculture subsidies? Only one. You're not heard of agreement on agriculture anytime? Okay, we'll cover that in the next class. In next class, we'll take up this fertilizer subsidy and issues raised by WTO on agriculture subsidies. Okay? Thank you so much. I'll meet you next week in that case. Next to next, chalo then. Happy Diwali. Yeah, thank you so much.